I'm Doug Miller, pastor of Trinity United Methodist Church in Winston-Salem.
And I'm Mary Miller, the pastor at Mount Carmel United Methodist Church in Winston-Salem.
And on this Good Friday, we welcome you, and we want to just invite you to come back to the upper room the night after the crucifixion with Peter and with Mary Magdalene.
We can only imagine the emotions that they were feeling, but we wanted to share our perspective of what we think might have been going on through their minds and hearts. And we're going to be sharing about them as well on Sunday morning at 9:30. So here is just a brief preview of where we're going.
Mary Magdalene, I've been looking for you everywhere just to see a familiar face.
Well, there was an earthquake, Peter, right at the right time. How could this happen?
I don't know. I tried to stop them. I tried everything I could to stop them.
You tried everything?
Well, I did. I had a sword with me, and I pulled out my sword, and I tried to fight those who were coming to arrest him. And, well, I even took off one of the servants' ears, and then Jesus said, "Stop," and he healed the man's ear.
Of course he did. Jesus would rather suffer than see anyone hurt. But why didn't Jesus at least try to reason with them?
I don't know. There were too many, and well, truthfully, I ran away with the rest of the disciples. We all ran away.
How could you just leave him like that? You knew they wanted to kill him. How could you leave him all alone?
I don't know, but I did come back, and I did follow the crowd that was going with Jesus, and I followed them to the high priest's courtyard, and I thought maybe I could do something at that point.
Did you?
Well, I was too scared. I saw the way that they were treating the Lord. They were spitting in his face. They were beating him. They were mocking him. And at one point they covered his eyes and they would beat him and say, "Prophesy! Tell us who's hitting you." And the people were so angry, and they tried and so fired up, and I feared for my life. Well, the trial was a fiasco. And so were all the witnesses. They all were stepping forward, and they were telling lies.
But you could have acted as a witness. You could have told the truth. Why didn't you step forward?
I couldn't even admit that I knew him. People were starting to recognize me, and I feared for my life, even though I swore to Jesus that I would follow him even to the death. But instead I denied him 3 times, just as he said I would.
The crowds were in a frenzy.
The Pharisees stirred up the people against Jesus. Imagine the people preferring the notorious Barabbas and not release Jesus, but him? There was nothing I could have done, nothing we could have done. I tried to follow him again, but only at a distance.
We followed too, mostly women. We kept in the background because we too were afraid. They made him carry his own cross. He kept stumbling, and he looked so tired and beaten, and not one of us stepped forward to help. No one even tried.
No one.
But Jesus was so well guarded. The high priest made sure of it, and there were soldiers making sure that nothing would interfere with this agenda. Do you think that Jesus would suddenly escape? He could barely walk, let alone carry those heavy beams. And all we could do was cry and lament. And at one point, Jesus looked up at us, and he told us not to cry for him, but instead we should be crying for ourselves and our children. What did he mean by that?
I don't know.
How could we not cry for him as he struggled along in so much pain? Eventually, they became impatient and made a bystander carry the cross. Can you believe it? It was just too much for him. His robe, his whole body was so bruised and blood-soaked. And the pain he must have had from the 40 lashes, I just can't imagine.
Oh, it's horrible to even think about what it did to his flesh.
And the thorns on his head. They were just those people going about their daily business like nothing happened, selling their wares and taking advantage of the crowd, oblivious to the injustice. And then he was hung on a cross like a common criminal. And he did nothing wrong. How could people not see the injustice?
And I just stood there. I did nothing. As they nailed him to the cross, I felt so ashamed, and it hurt as if they were putting the nails into me.
I know, I could not watch. And when I did look up, there was just a moment when he looked at me. And even though he hung there gasping to breathe, he seemed to be looking right at me into my very soul. I felt like I died with him. And on some level, I knew that it should have been me on that cross instead of him. I am deserving death, not Jesus. What did Jesus ever do to anyone? Nothing. He did nothing wrong. The Son of God who loved and healed people.
The one who could control even the wind and the sea.
Then why? Why did he allow us to put him to death? What was he thinking? I just don't understand.
I certainly don't want to see him die. And what was so wrong with that Jesus would rebuke me every time I told him, no, you are not going to die. I won't allow it. Who am I kidding? As if I could stop Jesus. As if I could do anything to control this situation or anything around me. Well, it's over.
Are you sure? Perhaps they could do something.
No, there's nothing that could be done. He is dead. Do you not remember what they did to him? They pierced his side, and there was water already with the blood. Nothing more can be done now.
Then I'll go. I will go with a few of the women to prepare the spices for the burial. I just hope the rulers will at least let us bury his body properly.
Amen.